Hello folks, this is Steve A.B. for you. I'm going to take a couple of minutes to have a little bit of reminiscing fun. Every now and then, I look at, there's a YouTube channel, Philly ABC6. I'm not promoting anything, I'm not recommending anything. And when I was doing videos about the Germantown area, I would start by looking at some of the news items there first to see which ones were happening in Germantown. Germantown is a section of Philadelphia. So just for fun, a few minutes ago, I looked online at the ABC 6 Action News, and I spotted an article about a big grant. Philadelphia gets $158 million. I wonder if that was in that bill they just passed to keep the government going, all the earmarks. An earmark is, I'll vote for it if my favorite little project gets put in there for some money to go back to my district. House of Representatives. Senators, too. Philadelphia gets $158 million for ChinaTown Stitch project construction. Now, the reason why that caught my eye in particular is because when I came back from Israel in 1968, first job I had in the Philadelphia area was on Race Street in Chinatown. Yes, there's a section of Philadelphia affectionately known as Chinatown, between 9th and 10th and Race. 9th and 10th Street crossing Race is where I worked. No, I didn't work in a Chinese restaurant. So, as I'm looking at this, and I can see that it's something to do with Vine Street, which was the next street over, and a main thoroughfare, as I remember it, going to the bridge to Camden. I see this one here. Chinatown Restaurant serves the final dish after 3 decades of business. So I wanted to get down onto Race Street.
Chinatown.
Xiao Long Kun serves their final dish after 3 decades of business in Chinatown. So I read the article. And as I'm reading it, all right, they closed their doors on January 14th. So that's the reason why they had all those things there. Those were previous news items related to Chinatown around in Philadelphia. So this article is from January of this year. And as I read down, I wanted to know where the restaurant is. And they don't give the address. So I did a Google search on the name. And there it is. Now you can see that Google knows it's permanently closed. So it agrees with what the article said in January. But what I was looking for was the address. And as it turns out, Chinatown Restaurant to close in January after 36 years on 930 Race Street. Pardon me. The frog wants to get going. 930 Race Street, Philadelphia, 19107. I lived in the Philadelphia area long enough that now as a senile old man, sometimes when people ask me for my zip code, I actually give the one from 919. I give zip codes for Raleigh too. Anyway, They know where it is, and there's a picture. And there it is, this one right here. Now, why would I be interested in this? Okay, I know where this is exactly. And the reason why I know where it is exactly is because of this building here, this one right here. But I'll come to that at the end. This is the side of the street where I worked in a place that formulated printers inks, custom color printers inks. You have places that print flyers, advertising signs, whatever, and they need the inks. And I worked for a shop owned by two people who had been in the business right there on Race Street, just a little further up. And I worked in there for 3 or 4 months. So the restaurant is a few doors from where I worked. Now, this is straight ahead is Race Street. This is 10th Street. And the next block crossing is 9th Street. And this is the section of Chinatown I worked in. So back in 1968, was it Chinatown? Oh, hell yes! Only now when I look at it, there were fewer Chinese and other Oriental restaurants in this section, this street section, than there are today. There were other businesses like the one I worked for. Now, you see this was a restaurant here on the corner? That restaurant used to serve breakfast, lunch, and supper. Weekdays. Now, typical of Philadelphia, you see the door here? You go in there to get to the apartments up there, all right? Now, this has got Chinese writing, I don't know. But you see this one right here? See, I don't want it to jump so much. All right. You see this one right here? And you see this one here? They look like they're in the same building. But back then in 1968, this was something separate from this one. And occasionally we would come out of the place where I was working directly across the street and walk over here and walk in, and you could order takeout. And if you look at, I don't understand why this is blocked. Can you see how it's a separate step up in here? This window's at a different level than this. And I worked in one of these across the street, and I think it was this one here, because I kind of remember coming out and going slightly diagonal to go to that quick takeout place. Were there all Chinese restaurants immediately next to us? No. There were fewer Chinese restaurants than there are today. It's really become the thing, apparently. Now, so I've told you about 2 restaurants. Let's get down here. Now, as I'm going down here, I noticed something. This one right here. The one we were interested in. On the ground floor is the restaurant that's now closed. But the sign is still there, but it closed in January, and this is actually June 2023. So it's a year ago. So we would expect the name of that restaurant to be there. But what's the sign above it? Chinese Benevolent Association. Does that mean anything to you? Chinese Benevolent Association. And then what you see here, it says Vancouver, San Francisco, Jamaica, New York City. Does that kind of give you a feeling that it might be very international? Charity Navigator, Chinese Benevolent Association, my head's in the way. See it? In Philadelphia, 930 Race Street, the same address as the restaurant. Now, why am I picking on that? Well, it didn't always be known as the Chinese Benevolent. What it does is it takes care of older people. How do I know? Let me tell you. Let's go to the third restaurant. So we get down here. We're going to talk about this building last. We get down here to the next crossing street, which is 9th and Race. Right here. This is 9th and Race. See this restaurant? See that building? You can see it's a big restaurant. Well, back in 1986, this was only open Saturday evening for dinner and Sunday morning to early afternoon, and the dinners in here were by reservation and expensive. And the restaurant was closed the rest of the week. So you're serving different clientele. Now, I'm not saying that's who's in there now. Now, let's go back one building and look up here. That's where the Kuomintang was. I can't spell it. Let's see what it gives us. Kuomintang. You can tell by the color, I didn't look it up ahead of time. The Kuomintang, also referred to the Nationalist Party of China, Taiwan, Chiang Kai-shek, fighting the communists on the mainland, or the Chinese Nationalist Party, is a major political party in the Republic, not the People's Republic, the Republic of China, Taiwan, initially based on Chinese mainland. Kuomintang, the old aristocrats, the national Chinese fighting Mao Zedong, the communists, and then Taiwan since 1949. They had to leave the mainland because they lost the war. It is the sole ruling party in China during the Republican era from 1928 to 1949. Remember what I said about the aristocracy? The Republican. Who took over after that? The communists. When most of the Chinese mainland was under the party retreated from the mainland to Taiwan on 7 December 1949, following its defeat in the Chinese Civil War. Okay. So what was on the sign in 1968 on that building? Kuomintang. And it was notable because the older Chinese guys especially, it was the men only went up there, heads of family, the ones that had fled from even Taiwan and had gotten to the United States and came to the United States and got into business or whatever, and now they're retired, but they're not on Social Security. They're on money from Taiwan that's like Social Security, and they would come up each week and pick up their check up there on the second floor at the Kuomintang, which has changed its name to the Chinese Benevolent Association. Do I know for a fact that those two are related? No. You realize that what I'm telling you is speculation many years later. And what is up the street used to be here, but they changed the name of them. And wouldn't it make sense that all of those expatriates that fought for Chiang Kai-shek and went to Taiwan and got kicked out of all their land and all that stuff, some of them coming to America, would be spread all over the world, so to speak, but still have connections back there. Have you noticed how strong it is the United States backs Taiwan? The roots go deep. So, let's turn the street around and look at this building. I said I would get to this last. I remember what this building was. This was the telephone exchange. And when I saw a certain movie, and a certain scene in it, I thought of this building. They might have come here to actually do the... So Robert Redford, the 3 Days of Condor, the 3 Days of the Condor. He's an outcast CIA guy or something like that. They're trying to get him. And he keeps sneaking around. He's one step ahead of them. Joe Turner is a bookish CIA analyst codenamed Condor. He works at the American Literary Historical Society in New York, which is actually a clandestine CIA office. They're reading overseas publications and stuff like that from all over the world to compare them to the actual operations or to find ideas. And he gets into trouble because he's finding something that there's a... Now, I don't remember the full plot of the movie. But at one point, they're trying to find out where he is, and he keeps trying to call back to the CIA headquarters for whatever reason. But he's smart enough to know that they've got, for the day, advanced technology, and they're pinpointing where he is, and they're going to send the killer and get him. Right there. And one of the famous scenes is that he's in the telephone exchange building where the old style of the way the relays and all that stuff work, one bank after another, when you dial the number. So when I did a little search, I find something. Redford was then snuck into a New York telephone company crossbar central office. The name plainly marked on the wall with the old style Bell logo, Bell Telephone. I have a still friend who originally went to work for Bell Telephone as an installer and called the CIA from a test frame. He kept plugging in different spots to thwart the CIA's attempt to trace him. So he made it appear that his call was coming from multiple locations in Brooklyn. And I remember they had the early computer scene, and it's trying to wind in on where's this call coming from, and it's totally confused. It keeps switching where he's supposedly calling from. And that's because he was a genius and he knew. All right? I didn't do a search on this. Hang on. New York Telephone Crossbar Office. Let's see what they give us for a picture. I don't want a preview. What are you doing? Let's try again. Hang on. Telephone crossbar switch. Here it is how it was in the old days. All right? And he's playing around with this thing and he's plugging into different places as the, so he's, well, why am I off on that? Because when I saw the movie, that's what was in here. We never saw anybody going in and out of this building. And this building was a little different than the others on the street because there was an alleyway access. You see how big that building is? Think of the size of Philadelphia. How many millions of people were there? This was the Central Telephone Exchange. Right there. Now you might doubt that. Okay, here's Race Street. Here's the section we're talking about. There's the 10th and Race. There's 9th and Race. I worked in this building here. This is the building we're interested in. And what does it say right there? Can you see it? It says Verizon. I don't think there was any Verizon back then, but maybe there was. I said it was a telephone exchange building. What's Verizon doing there? Remember, the stuff I'm remembering is from 1968. Okay? Just thought I'd show you that to confirm I'm not quite Biden. You'll have to pardon me. So, just every now and then I want to see what's going on in Philadelphia, and because I used to make those videos and leap off of the articles about people getting shot and stuff like that was on the YouTube channel for this station. Just went back and looked today, and bingo, it took me back to Race Street between 9th and 10th Street, where I used to work for a while. Steve A. I'll just kind of reminiscing, saying see you at 73.